and saying this is the situation at the time, and she did not expect anything. I think it was about 1,000, something ridiculous. And she went, oh, yeah, I've got this money that was saved. I give it to you. Bear in mind, we're not married. I give it to you and you can clear the debt. And then you pay like £150 a month. And I was shocked. I was shocked because no one had ever offered me that, literally. But for me, there was a bigger message that came out of that. And that's when this together. And I think for me, she doesn't know this, but that was the foundation for me. That was actually, not just I would marry her, like I would literally give you everything. Yeah, that, you know, I'm not for that, but no, this is, I always wanted a relationship where I feel like I can give you everything, like everything. And that for me, even before we went into the place of having a official commitment in place of marriage, I had the assurance that this was the right place to be and the right thing to do. So,
wonderful. Thank you so much. For the sake of time, that was very, very comprehensive, and I love it. But we need to we'll be here all night otherwise. So let's try and keep our responses as concise as we can, whilst giving as much detail as possible. Okay, people, pick a theme. Managing expectations. Okay. Everybody's a waiting one. We'll get there. Okay, managing expectations. Okay, so have you guys heard of the saying, or those of us in Christian spaces, you will often hear people advise you, don't have any expectations, like go in and, you know, don't allow your expectations to be too much because you're setting yourself up for failure. The question I want to ask you guys is, what expectations can you have of your spouse that's actually biblical? What expectations can you have of your spouse actually biblical? If you didn't ask that question, I would have said the expectations you should have of your spouse are biblical expectations. So the first things first, the foundation of belief in Christ. If that's something you agree on prior to marriage, will be something that would need to be upheld. And when I say upheld, there should be an intentional pursuit of Christ. So I would, before we got married, Cheryl had told me, oh, I believe in Jesus, so I love the Lord, and all this stuff. And so for me, that would have set up an expectation of when we're married, I want to see that in action. If I then don't see that in action, that would lead to frustration because it's an expectation that's already been set. We've agreed on that. So I'll say number one will be a belief in Christ as a foundation. Number two will be faithfulness. I think with the marriage covenant, that's something that goes without saying. And the whole point of us doing this is so that we can glorify God. The whole point of actually choosing to commit to one man, one wife is so we can glorify God. That's what God has written in His Word. So for me, the next expectation will be faithfulness. And faithfulness isn't just in terms of intimacy or sexual relations. Faithfulness is also in terms of finances. You talk about financial transparency. Faithfulness in terms of the desire to want to grow, the desire to want to develop. You don't want to stay stagnant is another way. A desire to raise up the children in the way of the Lord is another one. So faithfulness essentially is you being able to stick to what it is you're expecting to do and continue to remain in that place. So that would be really two of the biggest expectations I would agree.
Yeah, I think on a serious level, I think the reason of the children one, I think that's something that everybody has different perspective on how we do these things, but I think when we ground it the Bible and the basis of the Lord, I think there should be an expectation in that area in terms of how we raise our children. There's nothing wrong with wanting your children to succeed, but one of the beautiful things is ensuring that the children are the Lord. The Bible says that wise men in the grace of faith shape his children. Most of the time, we think of like house and wealth and money and stuff like that. But when I think of people like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who is, people, children's children, what was it? They need the Lord. So that's something that's very important. I think that there should be an expectation that the home will be an atmosphere where godly children will be raised. But even without the children, just that the husband would love his wife and wife would submit to the husband. There you go. So basically, I think because anytime we get, I remember back in the day, I used to kind of joke that anytime you say the word submit, man, like 5 times, and then you come back. But I think this is what the word of God ultimately says, and that doesn't mean insubordination. Basically, the picture of submission is how she's very low. Any opinion or anything say? There's a particular word I want to use. That's not what submission is. Basically, like that's the view that most people have about submission, that actually is. When we think about someone like Christ who submits himself to the will of the Father, right? That's to me, that's the picture of what submission is. And I believe that this is something that should be discussed prior to marriage. But what I've often found, and this is what brings my when I see people come together and they're just working towards marriage, and when you highlight certain things, changing the subject is what happens, or we'll do when we get there, and like when you get there, it will be difficult. So to try and save you from that, discuss and deal with the expectations first, and that's what worked for us, and that we are fortunate because November 9 months, and yeah, but I remember us just having a lot of conversations. In fact, we did more talking. Than even getting back. Our first day was on our honeymoon. We did more talking.
Say that again, bro.
Our first day was on our honeymoon. But we did more talking because sometimes you get so distracted by all of the things around it that you don't really focus. And I think for us, we're very focused on this. Ensure that we have conversations. I don't even know just companions. 50 questions that she had, not of usually, but it was 50 questions that she'd been asking right with the other parts of the There's questions like, what are your views on relating family members, type of friendships that you have, what are your views on conflict management, what are your thoughts on this, what are your thoughts on that, what's the thing of education? Yeah, that was a very good question. Yeah, like what would you think about doing a PhD? Or would you be happy if you're working to do a PhD? What do you think about that? That's wonderful. When we spoke about it, we kind of set the expectation in my mind. So that later in marriage, she said she wants to be a PhD. She wants to be a PhD, I'm fine. We'll be properly. So it's dealing with it before we get into marriage. It's important. And I think that itself is.
Okay, so we can see that we're getting quite comprehensive answers. And I love what Shay said about the fact that talking about children, and when Shay mentioned the fact that how you want to raise your children, I always thought to myself, the best gift I can give my children is a good father. Don't get it twisted. The person, for those of us who are still single here at age 14, the best gift you can give your child is a good parent. the person you marry is not just going to be healed by God's grace, it's not just going to be your husband or your wife. They're going to be someone's father or mother. And that's so important to remember that the feeling you have now is like, oh, I love him. He has a nice, I don't know, has nice eyes, nice head shape. He's tall. But it makes people love you. I don't know what, nice toes. For the man, he has a nice shape. You know, the one is round, this. All of those things are wonderful. But when it comes down to it, you're going to have to raise up. You're going to have to raise. I'm going to do look here. You're going to have to raise a family with this person. Even if it's like even a spiritual family, you don't have to raise this person. So it's so important to think beyond, just the now and think, would I want this person to father my child? Would I want this person to father my children? And I think that's such an important thing to have at the back of our minds. Okay, so we're going to do one more question each and then take a break and come back to the questions if that's okay. So,
Tell you guys before I actually want someone from the audience.
okay.
Whoever wants. Themes up to them.
So the theme of finances, we've covered finances, so you won't answer all of those. Sex and intimacy, decision making, managing expectations, we've just gone to, that's our part, communication, and parenting rules.
Okay, so either you or if somebody wants to pick one of those things for communication.
Great. You guys. So my question to you is, how do you deal with different communication styles? I know that often in relationships, you will have one person who is maybe quite broken about how they feel or what they would want the external processes. So you process that. And then you have others who process internally first before speaking. I don't know if that speaks to the both of you, but how do you deal with different communication styles and how have you managed to make it work over the years with the different styles of communicating?
Really good question. I will, as you asked that question, the first thing that came to mind is, yeah, we have, I mean, what we know is we have the same value sets and things and what we expect and what we believe in is similar, but we do express in different ways and we receive information and share information differently as well. So I would say it's still a work in progress, but one of the things that I think will show that earlier that I would bring back is that one of the foundations really that you want to be checking in your courtship or even in your marriage that was never too late is that you have a teachable spirit. I would say that that's been the main thing that's really helped us. Is the fact that we both, one of the things that I liked about Beaky was that I knew that he was open to learning. So he wasn't like closed-minded and said, no, it's my way and that's the only way. I think that's a great attribute that you don't want to lose when you're looking to make a decision about your spouse, that they are teachable, they really want to learn. And it's not just about telling, but you can tell that from the way they learn from the world, from people around them in the world, their parents, their siblings, do they take advice on board? And that's one of the good things. So what really has helped us is that spirit that we know, and we both decided that we will continue to learn in this marriage, and it really helps. So we've not been in a place where, although it's been hard, and sometimes one person might not be heard, or one person might feel that the other person is more vocal, that we're both open to learning from each other. So that's one thing that I would say has really, really helped. And the other thing is just patience. Honestly, patience. One of the things that I will always remember that has helped me so far in this marriage is that don't try to fix everything in that moment. Don't try to fix everything in that moment. Some things will need to be left for a bit longer. Some things you need to allow the other person to realize and come to that understanding. I think a lot of times when it comes to communication and we get that clash is because each person is trying to speak at the same time. And when you're both in that place where you're trying to speak, no one is listening. And you can't communicate that way. There has to be a listener and there has to be a speaker. So you have to be patient and you have to allow yourself that time and hope that, but I'm not saying forget about the things you need to communicate about and just sweep it under the carpet, but allow that space and come back to it later. So those are the few things.
Yeah, I think you said most of it, if not everything. I think the realization that no communication style is perfect in its entirety. Does that make sense? And understand that, I mean, we communicate at work and we're mostly different information. Does that make sense? So like if we can make it work, how much more someone that you will spend the rest of their life? You see what I mean? And you know, realizing that, for example, you know, I tend to want to solve things immediately because what's in my nature. Doesn't mean that that's what needs to happen all the time. Because I think in trying to fix sometimes it actually damage more. Because what tends to happen is sometimes when you go for fixing straight away, you don't get to actually process and realize what the actual problem is and what the actual damage is. Does that make sense? And what you want to do is fix it and move on. But you're not taking the lessons. And when you don't take lessons, you make the same mistakes again. That's just what I mean. So sometimes when your partner communicates to you, for example, that hurt others, sometimes what you want to do is fix it. Do something to make you not hurt. It's not about making out you not hurt. It's actually waiting to understand what you've done to make them hurt so that we don't do it again. Because the process of breaking someone's heart over and over again, there's only this much anyone can take. And that's just true. You know, we can say, you know, we're Christians and, you know, we're this marriage thing forever, that's great. But if you continue to like put pressure on someone and eat a spot, the same spot, over and over again, then you're self-destroying the integrity of what makes up that. Does that make sense? So if a husband, for example, is doing something, I don't know, spending all the money or whatever it is, God might be holding the marriage together, but God is selfish. And so what I suppose what I'm trying to say is that every party in a marriage has the capacity to destroy the marriage. Like there's nothing God is going to do about it. No, I'm serious. Like so it's, I suppose we can look at it in the light of, oh, you know, the grace of God to cover us, but that's not the point. The point is you're a party in the marriage and you have a say in the marriage. Does that make sense? You made that commitment. You signed that contract. That's it. And so in the same way you sign the contract and you honor your contract, an everyday contract, it means that God actually respects your wish if you decide to destroy your marriage. I'm not saying God wants you to do it, but God is not going to basically stop you if you by yourself want to read it. Does that make any sense? How much time have I got? 0. Okay, sorry.
No. Well, we still have time to go through, we're going to uncover some of these things. We're going to take one more thing before we take a little bit of a break and then we'll come back to really dive into some of the questions. But can someone in the audience pick a few then? Anybody? So the ones that are left are sex and intimacy, decision making that we haven't covered so far, and parents and in-laws. Everyone. Okay, parents and in-laws. Okay, so the question is. Okay, let me. I sense there's some heat coming from this side. I don't know what the heat is representing, but okay. So this is the question to our panelists. Is a close relationship with your in-laws a must? Or does it depend? Some people advocate Some people advocate that with your in-laws you should have, you know, close relationship, lunch every Sunday together. That's some families, that's what they do. And some people are like, we're cordial, there's no beef, everybody stays in their own lane and respects themselves. What's your thoughts on that? So the reason why I laugh is because this is an area that the lawyers actively had to break me, or should I say break us. And that's because we came from two completely different families. Yes, we're both Nigerian, but our families are from two completely different countries when it comes to culture and attitudes and behaviors and expectations and perspectives and a lot of things. So closeness, I would say, is very subjective, first of all. And for Sean and I, one of the things we spoke about prior to getting married was, how do you expect me to treat your family? And I said, we go for my family, listen, they're easygoing, this is how they are, and we said all of that. And he made it very clear, to the point where, on his side, for example, I'm expected to call his grandmother back in Africa. And I struggled with that for the longest time. But where he's come from, they speak, how often will you speak to his grandma? And that's not just his aunties, his cousins. And I struggled because where I'm coming from, it wasn't the same. Like, I could speak to my parents once, I know it sounds bad, but maybe once every 3 weeks or something since I left the house, and I would be fine, right? You want like, okay. And we were okay. So, close is subjective. However, the one lesson I would say I've learned, and I'm still learning, is that how I treat his family or how close I will be to his family, who's not my family, should be led by him. And it's not so much what I want to do or what I feel like doing. It's what he will, because he knows them better, and vice versa. And hard as it may be, I mean, for me, it's still a work in progress, but I found other ways to, I'll just be as transparent as I can. I may not call every week. It's not, I've tried, it's not grace that the Lord has given to me. So, but I found other ways. So, for example, every month I made it a point of duty to send funds to grandma myself as a form of reaching out, as a form of communication. Things like trying to remember birthdays where I can, or saying, oh, I'll be buying a gift for this person when I can. I've tried to make up for it in that way. So closeness to in-laws is somewhat subjective. But I do believe effort needs to be made, because the idea of, oh, I'm marrying this person when his family's somewhere over there is not realistic, and it can only last for so long. At some point, you will start to feel the strain in the relationships in one way or another. So it's important to keep a good level of at least cordiality, whereby there is peace when you meet, whereby people know you, they know your name, and they at least understand you to a certain degree. So yeah, I think that's helped.
Yeah, so, yeah, I believe that, you know, a lot of that, it's really subjective. I think it depends on the circumstances as well. Some people, they get along with their relatives, some may not. And therefore, it means that there's only so much proximity that they may have to you guys. So, for example, let's say we've done, just to share an example. In my family, for example, we speak about right? Which is not cooking, wherever, we do that. Don't start with that. She said, I think that's very, very, very good. I think, you know, once a month, almost 2 months, but we do have a WhatsApp group, right? So they're really tight, they're face to face in terms of being tight. But they may not see each other as much, or may not speak as much, or when they do get together, it's a house on fire. I think last year, Christmas, we had to go to, we had to get Airbnb because she's one of 6, and they have, I know it's 3 kids each, so we have to get rid. So when we are all together, there's sugar and energy and thoughts of children jumping off bunk beds and stuff like that. Whereas at my place, I'm the first one of 3, I'm very quiet. No one
It's
sings.
so quiet, and when, sorry, I have to say this one. But when we finish having the meal, and everyone's now catching up and they're talking, I'm praying for that, please pray for me. I'm praying for the grace to not fall asleep. In 9 years, it's only been once I've been to the house, but I haven't fallen asleep. After the meal, when everyone else is going and talking.
It's not the food is heavy. The suppers are very pushy.
I don't know if Mo agrees with that.
Yeah, so I mean, to kind of bring it back again, so with all seriousness, I think it's really subjective and it depends on the relation. It depends on what you guys have defined, but also depends on what's that each family have. Like I said, big family, they don't meet as much, they don't speak as much, but what we do is house of fire with us. You have to keep in touch. You have to keep in touch. You're not here for 2 weeks. What happened? You disappeared. That's the kind of thing. But I get it. That probably contributes to why, like, when I do speak to people, I like to catch this. The rules that we find, right? So I think it just depends on your family dynamics.
Okay, fine. We're gonna take one more question that I know everybody's been waiting for before we take a break. Yeah. That everybody's been waiting for me. I think it was eyes. I'm joking. Okay, so what I'm gonna do for this question is both of you are going to answer this question. Well, you've got 2 minutes each to answer it, so it's not gonna be long, unfortunately. So somebody puts the timer on for 2 minutes. Per couple, 2 minutes per couple, and we can come back to it if it's a question that we need to. So my first question is, or this question is regarding sex and intimacy. I want you to define for me, what is great sex? What is great sex?
I picked that question.
Define it for us. No, okay, I want you to give obviously as much detail as you can without being bold. I'm not going to be bolder, so I get that. I want you to explain to us, what does great sex look like and what does it feel like? What does great sex look like and what does it feel like? That's me just adding more room to the question. I'm not, you've talked to me well. Everyone passes the line. No, they just go.
That's a key question.
It is.
One that it takes more than 2 minutes to unravel.
We can start.
Again, I would go subjective. I think it depends on the person. I think great sex is what the person needs and what they define as great. So it's different. I think that's the one basics of sex and intimacy. It's not just the need for you, but actually the marriage and that it's fulfilling the need for the other person as well. So you have, I would say great sex is when the other partner understands their partner's needs and what they like and what they don't like, and the areas of pleasures and the areas that maybe turn them off, just because it works for you, because it works for them, and just working together towards it. So that's my very honest answer to this question. Thank you very much.
Great sex is what my wife do. Oh boy. I suppose it's actually genuinely something you have to define with yourselves. Genuinely. I think it's you bringing your expectations and being clear about your expectations, and then being clear about your expectations, and you being able to and you being able to like have a definition based on your expectation of things. I think obviously it's a case of in relating, as with anything else, you start to understand aspects of what you expect that maybe actually your spouse is not really thinking, yeah, and aspects of what they expect that you're not keeping, and build something that then works, that ultimately pleases both of you. And I suppose the key word is please both of you, because pleasing one person, you know, it's not, you're not communicating, if that makes sense. So whether or not it's, I like worship music in the background, I don't know. Some people do. I heard someone say they were speaking in tongues, literally, in the middle of sex. Genuinely. Like the first time in tongues. That was new. That was new to me. But yeah, that's great sex. But anyway, look, I think it's just creating that opportunity to be vulnerable with your spouse, and being able to find what makes both of you ultimately satisfied. Makes sense. And I think it's very possible to achieve that.
Fab, thank you very much. Okay, Pastor Daniels, 2 minutes.
It's as a responsibility, but then there's also that's a mutual understanding as well at the same time. Yeah, there has to be mutual understanding at the same time. When some would say, yeah, you know, grade 6 is you have to be a long distance from some would say, well, you have to be a sprinter, you know, but you can, so it really just depends. I think again, it's subjective. There's no one definition of grade 6, but I think the ultimate thing as far as this is concerned is that as for the man, he has to desire to please his wife and desire to meet that, right? And vice versa as well. Because grade 6 is when both of them are seeking to please each other. Sometimes I feel like in our day now, man, it's like sex is a prideful thing. Like I need to prove that I am this, but actually you seek to please your spouse. And if they say, I don't want to do this, I want to do this, then my wife wants it. Okay, I'll go with it. That's kind of mindset that you have, and that can be so.
Just to let you know, Mo is she's quite an expert at sex and intimacy. So she actually does quite a few teachings on it. So I'm quite keen to hear your answer. Wow. Great sex. I agree with what everyone else has said. I would say great sex is growing sex. It's the ability to continue growing with your spouse at every stage and expressing that in that place of vulnerability. I usually say that the one thing nobody else can do for your spouse is sex. No one can help you. Massaging, someone else will touch your spouse. That's someone else will cook, they can clean, they can give them money, they can work. Everything else, everyone else can do. The one thing nobody else can do for your spouse, like you're the only one who can do, is sex. So I would say great sex is growing sex, where there's an active desire to continue to learn the person you're married to, unlearn things you need to unlearn, and continue to grow and develop. That would be the definition for me. You don't stop something, you have to continue climbing.
So with the growing sex part, I believe that yes, that when she mentioned, said something that just struck my mind was seasons of life. So like, you know, first few weeks of marriage, you just don't want to stop, you know, you're offending people because they haven't answered their calls. You're sure your phone is far away, you don't answer the phone, first time by mistake. But then maybe the wife is pregnant now and her body is changing and the expectation will need to adjust. sometimes it may be that the wife is not feeling it at all. Like one of my friends, when he spoke about his first experience of his wife's libido, I'm sorry, he said that it was up here and he slammed it in and said it went down there. And all the guys were laughing and saying, "Wow, it was actually real." And he didn't have 6 for 8 months, he said, "It's a wrong man." But you know, adapting sometimes they may need to that would require communication, right? And then there may be some other cases whereby the pregnancy just made her sex drive just spike up crazy and easy thinking, man, she's asking again, can I get a break? And then again, when after children come, the baby's there now. Sometimes, so not all wives do this, okay? My wife is very but sometimes the husband will come neglected. And then it's like he doesn't get service, like someone said, doesn't get service. Being mindful of those seasons of life, I believe that those things will contribute towards this idea of great success because it's a growing, it's a continuous thing, it's not just a static thing, it's continuous.
I mean, all the issues around sex help, positions, the time, the whatever else you're doing will help. I think like Cheryl said, and I'd say for both of us, the one thing that's helped our sex life is peace. Just actually having peace in the house, being able to just be friends, be good friends. It changes everything. Wonderful. I love those definitions. And I love the idea of growing sex. And I think the thing that Jennifer has mentioned as well was about like actually what does a spouse define as great sex? So you might have your own definition and you may think that's the ultimate, but understanding what does my spouse need, what does my spouse desire, and I think you both then define what great sex is for the both of you. And it may not look like what it is to other people. You know, not to be wrong or anything, but I remember speaking to someone and they were saying that you know, some men don't fight divorce. But I'm not homophobic, I'm just giving an example. Some men during sex think that you know the vigor is what makes, and if your spouse is thinking, wait, I'm not feeling anything, this does not feel good. So it's the importance of communicating what that means to you and what that does have to do as well. Okay, so on that note, we're going to take a break, a 15-minute break. There's some food at the back. Please go and help yourself. 10-minute break, sorry. You can come back once break is over, you can come back to your seat for the food, just so that we can get the session rolling again. And in that time, we've got a Slido link. So if you've got questions, Chris, can you shout out the Slido number, please? Okay, we're going to get the Slido link on the screen, on the Slido number on the screen. So in the break as well, could we also put some questions in there that you have, and we will spend a little bit of time answering. So 10 minutes time, we'll be back here answering the rest of the questions and speaking to our wonderful panelists. Thank you all. God bless.
So just for those who are online, we will be back in 10 minutes. If you want to stay on the time, go back. So,